Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh along with my co-host, Adam Schrader. Adam, how are things in sunny Austin?
It is good. Sitting at home, considering having a drink while I work after this. So, you can drink on the job.
Yeah, you can. You can absolutely do that when you're working from home and when you have your own business from home. Yep. I'm not sure if you're working from home, working for an employer, but when you have your own business, you can set your own rules.
Yep.
Have you gotten a chance to do much reading or writing, Adam?
I've been doing a lot of reading. I haven't done much writing, but yeah, I've been getting back into reading. I don't read a whole lot. I read I take that back. I read a lot. I don't read a whole lot for knowledge. I read a lot of science fiction stuff. So knowledge stuff, not so much, but fun reading stuff, yeah, been doing that. So
well, on today's episode, I want to go over how our listeners can write their own book.
Oh, see, this, I thought you were talking about my Facebook post about how I read a book. All right, we're writing our own book. That's a lot more productive.
That's a lot more productive. I mean, reading is good. You can't be a good writer without being a good reader. So reading is important as well. But I've written 5 books to date.
I've written 0.
I know that you are working on one, though.
Yes, currently working on one. Well, take that back. I currently have an idea for one.
Okay, that's good. So we're going to go, like I said, I've written 5 books, all dealing with online and digital publishing or online and digital marketing or online and digital business, including one book called From Nobody to Bestselling Author, How to Write, Publish, and Market Your Book. So I want to talk about this topic because this is another way that you can work from home, you can write your book at home, you can get it published, and it's essentially passive income after that. So to give you an example, my book, Podcastnomics, I wrote that 6 years ago, and I am still collecting royalty checks in the thousands of dollars every year. We're not talking tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I have made tens of thousands of dollars from that book since it came out 6 years ago. But I put in the work and the effort in the summer of 2014, and I am still seeing a return on that, on the time that I spent there.
How much time?
I probably spent a month writing the book and then another month going through the publishing process of the book. And we're going to go over all of that today. But I also want to share that, look, you don't need to, if you're going to write a book thinking that you're going to become wealthy or that this is going to be a very lucrative stream of cash flow, don't do it.
Or get famous first.
Well, it's one of those things you really need to have a passion for what you're writing about. If you're just looking to make a quick buck, don't do it. Don't write the book. You need to know what you're talking about and you need to have a passion for it. And if you're writing fiction, so there's a huge difference between fiction versus nonfiction. If you're writing fiction, best of luck, because that is extremely crowded, extremely difficult to stand out from the crowd. Whereas if you're writing nonfiction, especially what I write, nonfiction business, that's not as crowded because surprisingly there aren't too many titles coming out that are nonfiction business. So it's easier to find a book in nonfiction business through its category on Amazon or through just keywords. So in the case of Podcastnomics, for example, if you go on Amazon and you type in book on podcasting, you'll probably find my book on the first page of Amazon's search listing, if not the second page. So the point that I'm making is it's easier to be found. It's easier to find a niche audience for your book. And I think that's the first key step in writing your book. It's, do you have an expertise in a specific topic in the nonfiction space? And if you do have that expertise, then we can move forward on writing the book. So, Adam, any questions so far?
Yeah, what made you think that you could write a book and sell it to people? Like, what gave you the stones to say, I'm going to write a book on podcasting that people should buy?
Excellent question. Excellent question, because every book needs to have some kind of genesis or some kind of motivation, right? So some people say, "Oh, I'm not, nothing motivates me enough to write a book. Like, I'm not passionate enough about something." So in my case, with Podcastomics, that was a service that my company, Krish Media and Marketing, was offering, podcasting. And so I had issues dealing with my clients where they weren't listening to me. They were paying me, but they weren't listening to what I was saying. And it became very frustrating. And it was that frustration that actually led me to writing Podcastomics, because I basically was like, you know what? I'm just going to write everything down on paper and I'm going to publish it. And that way, if I get leads, so not clients, but if I get leads coming my way, instead of wasting my time answering emails or setting up phone calls where I'm not getting any business in return, I can just say, hey, here's a book, check it out. All the answers to your questions are right here, because I was getting the same questions over and over again. So I think every good writer needs inspiration. And in my case, I guess, since I've written 5 books, I've been fortunate, maybe unfortunate, to live a life of constant frustration. And when you're frustrated, instead of lashing out in emotional ways, I made the decision that I wanted to be a writer and kind of share those frustrations in written format. And so pretty much all my books are a result of the frustration that I faced with my own business.
Nice. All right. That's fair enough. Yeah. I've never, it's one of those things that I know that, whenever I look back on what I've done, I can be deemed like an expert in something, but as I'm going through it, I never feel expert-ish enough. And then my wife sometimes reminds me, and she's like, that's because you're in the weeds and you know what you don't know, but you don't think about the fact that you know 100 times more than the average person.
And that's another good point, because you'll be surprised. I'm talking to all our listeners. You'll be surprised at how much you know about something. And you compare how much you know to the average person who knows next to nothing, or maybe nothing about that same thing. So in the case of podcasting, I just kind of became this podcasting expert, and I wrote it was like it's a 12,000 word book, Podcastomics. And I write all my books as if I'm teaching somebody, like your 5-year-old twins, Adam. I write every book as if they're starting from scratch, because even if they do know some of the basic stuff, they can always just skip over it and go to the meat of whatever it is that they need to know. But I always, even my book 50 Shades of Marketing, I start from scratch, the most basic stuff. And it helps with the length of the book, and the length is important because you want your book. I recommend that people publish books that are at least 10,000 words. The longer your book, traditional publishers want at least 40, I think it's 40 or 50,000 words, because the book needs to be long enough to where there's a spine on the book, so that if there's a spine, they can print lettering on the spine, and now all of a sudden you can distribute it to bookstores in hardback format.
Well, let's hang on for, I don't know the answer to this. So when you say 40,000 words or 10,000 words, in terms of pages, what does that usually equate out to?
40,000 words equates to about 200. Well, we're talking right now paperback, not hardback.
Yeah,
we're talking like a standard paperback. 40,000 words would equate to about 220 pages.
Okay. So your Podcastnomics is about 55, 60 pages, somewhere in that range?
It is. It's about
Okay.
60 pages. It's a
I mean,
short,
I've read it.
quick...
To be fair to everybody
Yeah.
else, I have read it. I just don't know how long it is, because on a Kindle, pages are
Yeah.
not as easy to tell.
Well, now you just brought up another point, which is the distribution of books. It's not just paperback or hardback anymore. When I came out with Podcastnomics, Kindle sales were my top sales for the first 6 months or so. And then now audiobook sales are my top sales. So you got the Kindle format, the audiobook format, which is through iTunes and Audible. You have the paperback format, and then you also can do a hardback format. Now, with the hardback format, Podcastnomics is not long enough for a hardback format because it's like 12,000 words. So you want to publish your book in every single format possible, because people they now consume their books in many different ways, and it only serves you better to come out with your book in all sorts of different formats. So I'm going to share the first resource that, or the first few resources that you can make note of to publish a hardback. Lulu, Lulu, Lulu. Click the Create tab and just walk through the process. For a Kindle version, Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, just type that into Google, walk through the process. Audiobook, ACX. A as in Apple, C as in China, X as in X-ray. ACX, type it into Google, and you can walk through the process. You can hire narrators through that platform. You can pay them a revenue share, or you can pay them by the hour. So you can do all this yourself. You don't need to go through a traditional book publisher. You don't need to do it. You can just do it all by yourself. And I want to offer my book, From Nobody to Best-Selling Author, which I brought up earlier. I want to offer that to all of our listeners because, again, kind of like our previous lesson on podcasting, we're not going to have enough time to go over every single little detail on this episode of how to write the book, how to publish a book, the graphics design and marketing and promotion. So again, visit workfromhomeshow.com, get on our mailing list, leave us a review on whatever platform you use to listen to us, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Leave us a review. Email us hello@workfromhomeshow.com with a screenshot of that review, and I'll send you a free copy of From Nobody to Best-Selling Author. Free copy.
So how do you go about, like, I get the Kindle stuff, but did you have to go through a company to do the paperback? Like, do you have to buy up the paperbacks, then like send them to Amazon or mail them when they do Amazon? How does that work?
Nope. So I think I forgot to give you the resource for paperback. So the resource for paperback is the same as Kindle, KDP. So if you want to do paperback, just go to KDP, go through the process, and it is on demand. So if somebody goes on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com and orders your book on paperback, Amazon already has facilities. They have hundreds of facilities around the country where it's going to automatically print and be shipped to the person who bought the book. So paperback, the royalty is less than Kindle or audiobook, because Kindle and audiobook are digital formats. You generally make about 70% on digital formats when it comes to royalties. On paperback, you only make about 20% because of the printing costs. But you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. So Amazon's going to go ahead and take their cut on the paperback, and then they'll give you your cut. Nothing. You don't have to pay anything out of pocket.
So do you have a seller account with Amazon then?
You don't need a seller account. Just go to KDP, you create a username and password, and you're then good to go.
Wow.
And look, this actually surprises a lot of people, because the average person still thinks, oh, wow, you're an author? Like, you must have a publisher, and you're like on the New York Times bestseller list and this and that. And it's like, no, publishing has completely changed book publishing, completely changed because of Amazon. Amazon has changed the game because 90% of books are sold through the Amazon.
I mean, that's why that's what they started doing.
That is what they started doing. They were an online bookstore. And self-publishing, what I'm telling you is self-publishing. You could do what I did, which is create a publishing arm. So I created Krish Publishing and put my books under that umbrella, but you're still doing it yourself. So you're acting as your own publisher. So I'm hoping that by the time this episode is over, you'll feel confident so that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know publishing a book was that easy. Like, all I have to do is write the book. Then I hire the designers, which we've talked about before. You can go to a site like Upwork or Fiverr, hire a designer for the front cover, the back cover, the spine. The same designer can do all that. You can hire the same designer or a different designer to format the book so that it's under the format is in like regular book publishing standards that all the other New York Times bestselling books are in. And again, we're not going to go over every single detail. If you get my book From Nobody to Bestselling Author, we go through, what the font should be, what size a font should be, like how you should format the spine, what should be on the back cover, what should be on the inner flap. We go over all those details in From Nobody to Bestselling Author.
So how much do you usually spend roughly getting a book all said and done?
So the cost, excellent question again, because
I rock the questions. What can
you rock the questions. In the case of a book, the writing, assuming you do the writing, is free. Now you could, some people who aren't good writers, because writing is hard. Some people, they choose to get a transcription software, and there are some free ones out there. There are some free apps like Otter, Otter. It's a free transcription. So you just get the app, you talk into it, and boom, it transcribes for you. Pretty, not like completely accurately, but decently accurate. So, like, for example, Adam, you and I are doing this episode. I can play this episode and turn on my Otter app on my phone, and it'll transcribe the entire episode. And so now we have this transcription of our episode, and then you can either hire an editor or do the editing yourself to turn it into something digestible. So obviously, if you do it yourself, it's free. So that's the first step. It's writing. Then after writing, we're talking about design work. So the design work for a front, back, spine, I would say costs about, I spend maybe $30 for that design work. Then, $30, and that's including the image and full design of the front cover. So we're talking about $30 there. Then formatting the book. So you're going to have to format for paperback, and you're going to have to format for Kindle, because they're two different versions and they have to be formatted differently. So I'd say formatting for each would be about $10 each, maybe $10 to $15 each. So about $30 total for the formatting.
So we're 60 in now.
So now we're at 60. Then a lot of the stuff like social proof, it's free. So when I say social proof, I mean getting testimonials for your book. So reaching out to your contacts, maybe famous people within the industry that you're publishing. That's essentially free because you're not paying them to endorse the book. It's up to you whether you want an editor or not. You can edit yourself. Obviously, that would be free. And then even the audiobook production, if you do a revenue share, then you're not paying anything out of pocket. Now, I personally learned from my Podcastnomics experience, because that was my first book. I did a revenue share because I was like, oh, I don't have to pay anything. Huge mistake. I missed out on tens of thousands of dollars because I did the revenue share. Instead of paying the narrator, I would have probably paid him like $80 for, maybe $80 or $100 for a 12,000 word book. So,
but they're happy.
That guy loves me. That narrator, he absolutely loves me. He still thanks me to this day for me being just a terrible business person.
That's why you listen to this show, so you don't make that mistake.
Yeah, and like I said, that was my first book. So you learn from your lesson, and now for the books that came out after that, I've paid them by the hour, and it's worked out way better. So I learned from my lesson. That's how in life that's what you have to do. You just have to learn from your lessons.
All right. So if we pay him, it costs, you said, $80, $100.
It depends on the number of words, because they charge by the hour, and they charge rounded up. And when I say by the hour, not the amount of time it takes them to record, but the length of the actual audiobook. So if the audiobook is 3 hours, they'll charge you like $40 an hour.
Okay.
So he was done with Podcastnomics in I think that book was 2 hours, so it was like an $80 charge.
Okay. All right, so we're in just round it up to like 150 or so total.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Exactly. Before we get into marketing stuff, I want to go to the most important or the hardest part, which is actually writing the book. So I told you guys about the transcription softwares. People will transcribe themselves talking out their ideas so that they don't have to just sit in front of a blank screen and try to type out chapters. So that's kind of a hack that you can use. But I also want to say that the key to successful writing is really not holding back. Just like the key to our podcast, Adam, is we can't be afraid of sharing or of speaking our minds. We can't be afraid about offending people. In fact, when you are afraid, that's when you know you have something. And that's when you should hit the publish button. Because the moment you start censoring out all those things that you're afraid of, now you've got a piece of work that is not really unique. It's not really enticing. So I want to emphasize really 2 keys to successful writing. And that is, number 1, just dig down deep into yourself and unleash your thoughts and your thinking. The second thing is the editing is so important. And like I said, you can edit yourself, but the grammar and the mechanics and obviously punctuation, if you can get that down, to me, that's the fundamental basis of good writing. So if you can get down the grammar side and understand the English language or whatever language you're writing in very well, then you master that and you can add personality to your writing and really take it to the next level. If you want to, write a children's book for second graders or write a college book for college kids, understanding the basics and the fundamentals will help you in whatever genre you write in. It'll help establish you, because the moment a reader sees, oh wow, this guy spelled this sentence word wrong, and this sentence is all screwed up, it's really long and I don't understand it, people are going to stop reading. They're absolutely going to stop reading.
Yeah, let's look at that. One of the things that surprised me when 50 Shades of Marketing came out is I remember you got some feedback after you'd published the book and you decided you wanted to change something and you could do it. Talk about that process, what happened. At least I'm pretty sure this happened. Can you talk about that?
I know what you're talking about. So it wasn't 50 Shades of Marketing. It was my From Nobody to Best-Selling Author book.
Oh, okay.
And the book was published, and the reviews were actually pretty bad because people started saying, you can probably go on Amazon and see it for yourself right now. It was this author is just promoting his business. He keeps plugging his website. It's just a commercial for his business. And so it was 3 straight reviews of just overly promotional. And so immediately I was able to go into that KDP platform and get rid of all my references to anything promotional. I didn't even think twice. I was like, you know what, forget about it. If they like it, they'll somehow find me. I got rid of all those plugs. Just got rid of it. And boom, within 2 business days, the newer version of the paperback and the Kindle was updated. Now the audiobook, you're stuck with the audiobook forever. There's no making changes to that once it's published for obvious reasons.
So, but you could have gone back and just had them read redo the audiobook completely, couldn't you?
I could have, but then I would have to. It's too much work. Let's put it that way, because I'd have to go back, look at the exact chapter or like the exact page numbers or the chapters. I'd have to re-record the chapter and upload it. Because I did it in like 4 different chapters, I'd have to do it for 4 different chapters. It's just, to me, it's not even worth it.
Okay. All right.
All right. So we talked about kind of the keys to successful writing. Now, why would someone write a book? Number one, I already said this again. You need to have a passion. Do not write a book if you're just looking to make a quick buck. Don't do it. Writing a book is good for branding. It establishes you as a thought leader, especially if you're writing nonfiction. So in the case of Podcastnomics, I became a thought leader in podcasting because I wrote the book on podcasting. In the case of From Nobody to Bestselling Author, the same thing. I've become a thought leader in book publishing because I've written so many books. I've written the book on book publishing. It's also good for lead generation. So Krish Media and Marketing, my digital marketing agency, has gotten several clients through my books. So people... Like I said, I've had like tens of thousands of people read my books, and some of those people ended up contacting us and becoming clients because they were like, hey, got your book, read through it, we want to hire you. So it's great for lead generation. And then the last thing is something called the pass-along effect, which we mentioned in the previous series on podcasting. The pass-along effect is that they don't disappear. So the greatness of anything that has a pass-along effect is that they're passed on. They don't disappear. So I brought up like this podcast. As long as we pay our $5 a month in hosting fee and our $100 a year on the website, it's gonna
slow down. Like $10 a year on the website.
Okay, $10 a year on the website. So as long as we pay, basically $20 a year to keep our podcast up and running, it's going to be on the internet forever. Like, my grandkids are going to be able to find what their grandfather podcasted about back in 2020. So that's a pass-along effect.
And he's going to say, thank goodness he stayed inside.
Yes. And so the pass-along effect is just the idea that your book is going to stand the test of time. So even if your book doesn't sell well during its first year or its second year, it could sell well in its 5th year. And I have another example, my book, Trump Book, How Digital Liberals Silenced the Nation into Making America Hate Again. That book was banned when it first came out by several of my book marketing partners. They wouldn't promote it. They said, sorry, we can't promote it. And Amazon also kind of screwed me over with that book as well by basically hurting the search engine optimization value of that book. Well, that book came out in 2017, a year after the 2016 election. So it came out in November 2017. Well, in October 2019, all of a sudden, so this is 2 years after the book came out, I saw a huge surge in book sales for that book. And I was like, what the heck happened here? Like, legitimately, like 300 books were sold of Trump book. 300 copies were sold. And the bulk of them were audiobooks, which made it even stranger. And not only that, people left reviews of the book. They actually read it and they were citing and quoting things from the book. So I still haven't figured out. It was really strange. I don't know what happened, but
Russia.
I basically maybe it was the Russians. But hey, I'll take it because I got that royalty check the next month and it looked very, very nice. And I was like, whoa. Because initially I was like, man, I put in all this work and effort writing this book and it's been banned and like Amazon screwed me over and this and that. And then it's like, okay, 2 years later, it's not worth it. And who knows, maybe 5 years from now, maybe next month, I see a huge spike in copies. So that's what I mean by the pass-along effect.
I remember you telling me this, and I think the listeners will love it. It blew me away. What numbers make a book successful in terms of sales? like to get to number 1 or to get to number 10.
Yeah.
The numbers weren't what I expected whenever you told me a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, this is part of the book marketing strategy. So if we start talking marketing, when you publish your book on Amazon, you want to do market research and put your book in a category that is not competitive. So, like our podcast, for example, Adam, iTunes actually picked for us. They picked well, we had to pick a broad category like business, and then within business, they put our podcast in a niche category, but we couldn't select it. They selected it for us. In the case of Amazon, because they have like hundreds of different categories, you can pick the 2 or 3 categories that you want your book to be in. So you definitely want to be in relevant categories, but you also want to do some market research and see, okay, if I'm in a category going up against like Michael Lewis and Malcolm Gladwell and all these like well-known authors, that's a very competitive category and I'm probably not going to win. Whereas if I'm in a category where it's a bunch of like, no-name people in that category with books, okay, I can probably beat them. So that's really the first step in the answer to your question, picking the right categories that are not competitive. Then after that, you can run book marketing campaigns. And again, reach out to us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. You can get all these strategies in my book, From Nobody to Bestselling Author, or just reach out to us. And if you want to talk some more with me and Krish Media and marketing and how we can help promote your book or publish your book, we can help you out there. But what I'm saying is when you run your marketing campaign, really all you need, surprisingly, on the Kindle side, if you're in a non-competitive category, you can reach top 5 easily with just 10 sales in one day. You can reach, yeah, I'm not even joking. And you can become number 1 with probably 20 sales in one day on Kindle. So guess what? I've become number 1. I've become a number 1 best-selling author. I take that screenshot of my book being number 1. I promote that screenshot. Oh, look, I'm beating all these authors. Like, I'm a number 1 best-selling author. Here's a screenshot to prove it. And then Amazon has a stake in your books because Amazon gets paid every time anything is sold. So if they see that a book is selling well, then they have algorithms that automatically go off. And the algorithms are like, oh, well, people like this book, so let's promote it for free for this author because it seems this is a popular book and we need to get it in front of more people's eyes because they'll probably buy it too. And that's what happened to my book Podcastonomics because A, the timing was great for the book, but B, I ran my marketing promotions and I became a number 1 best-selling author in every single category it was in. And I still have screenshots, beating some huge name off. I think I was beating like Malcolm Gladwell. I think I was beating the Bible. Yeah. And so Amazon, the algorithm started going crazy and they're like, oh, we need to start promoting this book. And once you get on the good graces of Amazon to where they're promoting your book, you just sit back and see the royalties come in.
Yeah, it works for me.
Yeah. And going back to like after or like, what should I write about? Because a lot of people, we talked about, okay, you need to be motivated, you need to have some kind of inspiration. But the idea of podcasting, we talked about a niche topic in podcasting, not a broad like sports topic. We talked about niche. And so it's the same thing with your nonfiction book. You want to write about a niche like podcasting or how to write a book. The more niche you can write, the easier your book will be found and the more it's going to sell because you're going to be able to find a target audience.
And you also want to be writing in something you can provide value in. So you might not be able to provide value in a huge, large, broad topic, but you can provide value in a narrow topic. So if that's where you can provide value, that's where you need to be focusing because that's how that's how capitalism works. You see a need, fill a need, and so you're trying to be too broad will come back to bite you.
And please, listeners, do not write about your life story. You don't know how many people come up to me when they find out that I'm an author and that I've sold a lot of copies. They're like, oh, you know what? I really want to write a book about my life story. And look, you can do it if that's what you want to do. Just don't expect anybody, unless you're Maya Angelou or Charles Darwin or Michael Jordan or one of these well-known.
Yeah, get famous first.
Yep, exactly. Get famous first and then write about your life story. Don't expect that writing about your life story is going to get you famous.
Anything else we need to know, Naresh? Because I don't know anything about this.
So I think we've gone over a lot, just continue when you're writing, share your biggest, deepest secrets. We talked about kind of the resources.
That's one thing that you should know. Just because you're providing your information to other people, that doesn't mean that they're not going to need you. Like if you write a book about podcasting even, just because you're teaching people everything they need to know to podcast, you have to remember if somebody is writing a book about, manufacturing in some way, they're not going to want to be dealing, and that's your thing. You need to provide, you're going to be telling them about a service that will help their business, and then they're going to reach out to you because they know that they want that, they know that they need that, but they don't want to do it, or they can't do it themselves. So educating people won't hurt you. You won't lose business from that. The people who buy your book and then don't contact you wouldn't have contacted you in the first place. So don't be afraid that you're going to be driving customers away because you're giving away your knowledge in a book.
Well, remember that if you didn't even have your book to begin with, that reader would have never found you.
Right.
So now you have the book, and the worst case scenario is they buy your book and you made a royalty off of them buying your book. And that sale gets registered into Amazon, and it just helps your ranking, and hopefully Amazon does more marketing for you. That's really the worst case scenario. The best case scenario, obviously, is they buy your book, they read it, they love it, they leave you a 5-star review, and then they contact you and they hire you as a consultant or, hire you to do some work for them. That's the best case scenario. But you're always share your secrets, share them. Like, otherwise, what's in the book? If you're not going to share the important stuff, then what's the point of even somebody getting the book? What's the point of you writing the book? It's just fluff.
Yep.
So, as far as marketing goes, there's an entire marketing cheat sheet. I have 16 strategies. The chapter in my book is called 16 Ways to Market Your Book. We've actually already gone over like 5 strategies. So, common question I get, and this has to do with marketing, that's, what should I price my book? In the case of Kindle, you can literally price your book anything because it's digital. In the case of the audiobook, Amazon actually picks the price for you. So you don't even have to make that decision. They'll tell you what the audiobook's going to sell at.
Wow.
In the case of paperback.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Amazon picks the price for the audiobook based on its length. And then for paperback, Amazon doesn't tell you what to price it, but there is a minimum price because of the printing costs.
Yeah. You can sell it for free, but they're going to make their money back, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
If it costs them $4 to make the book, you can sell it for $4, but not for $3.
Exactly. So there is a minimum. In the case of Kindle, the minimum is 99 cents, but you can also run free campaigns, which is how a lot of you are going to get free copies of my books, Podcastnomics and From Nobody to Best-Selling Author and 50 Shades of Marketing, because I'm going to run free campaigns so that you can get the books for free.
So in that regard, I know the reason that they charge $1 is because they want $1. Like if you sell something for 99 cents, you don't get any money off it, right? I'm pretty sure is how Amazon works.
No, even if you sell your book if you sell it for free, you don't get anything.
Right.
If you sell it for 99 cents, you still do get a royalty. But you do the math on what.
So if you want to give your book away for free, do you still have to pay every time somebody downloads it?
No, for Kindle, you don't have to pay anything because it's only the paperback where you have to pay. Well, you're not paying for it. They just deduct it from your royalty.
Right.
So you're not paying anything out of pocket.
Okay. I didn't know if free campaigns required an outlay of cash, like because Amazon wants their 15% and plus whatever else they take. I didn't know if they charge that even if it was free.
Nope. I'll tell you, Amazon is an amazing company, and they've got their shit down. They've thought this through. They have an entire book publishing division of, probably 100 plus people worldwide, and they know what they're doing. Like, to me, it's just incredible how that company operates. It's like, wow, they're legit. So really, there are a ton of resources, again, that you can get on I guess let me quickly go over.
Do you sell anywhere else? Or just Amazon? Do you just sell Amazon, or do you sell anywhere else?
No, so through the Kindle Direct Publishing platform and the ACX for audiobook, you literally just check some boxes to get the books distributed in libraries, barnesandnoble.com, iTunes, Audible. So it's not just Amazon.
Okay.
If you include all of those, like if we include Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, and iTunes and Audible, that covers like 99% of the book market.
Yeah. Okay.
So we talked about Fiverr and Upwork to hire like contractors to help you with formatting, book cover, design, editing. We talked about transcription softwares like the Otter app. There's also nch.com.au, audiotranscription.de. I mean, rev.com. These are all transcription services that you can pay for. We talked about how to publish your book, the KDP, ACX, lulu.com for hardback. There's also, one other resource that we didn't talk about is iBooks. So iBooks is 99%. I brought up those, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. It's really more like 90% because iBooks is another popular platform to sell and read books. However, iBooks is owned by Apple. So iBooks is a competitor to Amazon and the Kindle. Therefore, if you do an exclusive deal, which all my books are exclusive to Amazon's terms, then you're not allowed to publish on iBooks. Amazon will come after you, and that's happened to me once before. They came after me. So I recommend, look, if for whatever reason you're like, I need to have my book on iBooks, then just check the box when you're publishing your book through the Kindle Direct Publishing platform that you don't want to do an exclusive deal. I do the exclusive deal because I'm able to give away free copies of my book. I'm able to run Kindle Countdown deals. I'm able to do just a lot more. And I would say, Adam, there's a lot more that we didn't cover, but people can go to workfromhomeshow.com, get on our mailing list, leave us a review, take a screenshot of that review, email us hello@workfromhomeshow.com. I'll send you a free copy of From Nobody to Bestselling Author, How to Write, Publish, and Market Your Book. And you will have just everything right in front of you, the audiobook and the Kindle versions. It'll help you with your book. It has everything you need to know. And I think we've just about covered everything.
Yeah. Any more, people are just going to zone out.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks again, guys, for listening to another episode. We hope that you learned a lot about how you can write your book at home, and it's not as complicated as you may have thought. And until next time, keep on working from home.